of Nefesh Chaim Shar Aleph Perek Bet. I'm going to mute everyone, and if you have question, you let me know. Hey, you got the book, Aiki? Very nice. If you don't have the book, you could see I sent in the chats. I sent a link on the chat for Sefaria. If you have the book at home, even better. Last week we did Shar Aleph, Perek Aleph. I'm going to say a little summary, and then we'll continue with Perek Bet. So, do you hear me first of all? Yes? Okay, because someone gave me a mic. Here, you see my little mic? And I don't know if it works, but if you say it works, then great. Baruch Hashem. Miracle. All right. Okay, so without any further ado, let's summarize last week. If you have any question that you think is very important in the moment, you could raise your hand, or you make me signs, or you I don't know what you do, and I'll try to unmute you. But first of all, a little summary of last week. So last week we just introduced one of the most famous Pesukim, but least understood Pesukim in the Torah, called the Akadosh Baruch Hu created men to his image, to Tzelem Elokim. Tzelem Elokim, we read it in Parashat Bereshit. We all know that terminology, but in the words of the Nefesh Chaim, it is such a deep concept that it is kolel rov sitre penimiyut hazohar. It includes in this concept the majority of the secrets of the Kabbalistic teachings of the Zohar. So obviously it's not just the translation of two words, as we're going to go deeper and deeper in this learning. But what we saw at this point was just that a tzelem means a comparison. It's not necessarily something physical. It is many times called something physical. In modern Hebrew, that's why you call a cameraman, a video camera person, you call it a tzalman. Comes from tzelem, of course. But in the case of God, it would be impossible to equate our physical appearance with his physical appearance, because he doesn't have one. Although, as we discussed last week, there are some halachot that come from that, like drawing, making a sculpture of a human being comes from this problem, which is very interesting, because it doesn't seem to be something physical, but yet the halacha is that it is. And this is a real mystery. Why is that? Because we all understand that Tzelem Elokim is not physical and not literal, but is a comparison. When you bring a tzelem of something, or a demut means a comparison between two things. So then that demut is not something necessarily physical. I could be dome to you in Hebrew. I could be similar to you, but not necessarily physically similar to you. We could be similar in many different ways. And therefore, that is where there's a comparison. I did a little bit of search on the difference between tzelem and demut, though, because obviously there are two terms there. B'tzalmenu kidmutenu, when it says in our image, like our image. So what is the difference between tzelem and demut? I don't claim to have a full answer. The Gaon Mivilna says something, you know what, I'm going to use my own words for that, but understanding the Gaon Mivilna in Divrei Eliyahu, he says that the tzelem is more, it's more like the Shem Elokim, and the demut is more like the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. He doesn't say these words, but he says the tzelem is more like the kohot, the powers and the energies and all these things that exist in the world. And the demut is more the neshama resembling Hashem's hanhaga. We'll get back to that. It's a difficult concept. What we have to do, Be'ezrat Hashem, today is just to get into Shar Bet, which is a magnificent Shar. Shar Aleph Perek Bet, which is magnificent because it starts talking about the following. The Nefesh HaChaim, we ended last week, said that if we just wanted to say that man resembles God in many different aspects of his existence. And again, this is open to a lot of suggestions, right? Because when I tell you we resemble God one way or another, a thousand ways how we resemble God. It could be the way we procreate. It could be the fact that we have the choice. It could be a fact that we could do good. It could be so many things that we resemble God much more than animals or even malachim. We'll see who is greater, if it's the man or angels, who is greater in our choice, in our etc. So we'll see what that means. But in the meantime, the Nefesh HaChaim says, fine, perfect. So you're trying to have a comparison between God and the human being, as if God decides to have the human being represent him or take his role or his responsibility or being a partner with him. However you want to view that Tselem Elokim story as something that is similar to one another, there's obviously a comparison between two beings. Then you have to ask yourself a question. We know that there are many different terms to call God. God in English is a little boring, the term, although sometimes in some translations you have God, the Lord, whatever. I don't know of any other terms. It's not good translations. We know in Hebrew, every term, Yud Ke Vav Ke, or Elokim, Shaddai, Kel, Tzvakot, Rach, there's so many words and each one infers something else. And here, the Nefesh HaChaim, of course, it's no exception. Here, Nefesh HaChaim is asking a question. If we just wanted to say that a person is similar to Hashem, why did we have to pick the word Elokim? Elokim, the last thing we saw last week was that Elokim, the word Elokim, the name Elokim, and I asked a question that he doesn't say, but will be elucidated today, is that Elokim is plural. Since when the people of monotheism par excellence would call a God with the plural? This is not a good idea, right? You could call Eloah, you could call any word, but Elokim, which is plural, why would you call God plural when we're fighting against that? And we are all for monotheism. So the word Elokim is what we said last week. Let's read again from Perek Bet. So if you have the text again, beautiful. If you don't have the text, you could get it on sefaria.org. I sent to the chat to everyone. You could click on that. And something else before we begin is that if you get cut, if the connection is not good or whatever, you could view us on iTorah.com. Thank you very much to the iTorah crew, who is truly incredible. Rabotai, Perek Bet. Omnam lehavin inyan omro betzelem Elokim davka. When it says in the pasuk, the image of Elokim davka, this is the term that was chosen. Velo shem acher, and not another name. Kishem Elokim, because the word Elokim, the name Elokim, Yadua Perusho, we know what it means. What it means, Shu Moreh, Shu Yitbarach Shemo Barakochot Kulam. It shows this is the name that refers to God as Barakochot Kulam, the owner, or if you want, the strongest being that exists. He's above all powers. So if the sun is very strong, but someone gave the sun the solar energy, and that's God. So Elokim is going to be above that. As the Tur says, because in Siman He we talk about the kavanah that you're supposed to have in the beracha. And when you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, you say Elokeinu, you have to be thinking about this. This is the term Elokim, that he is above the powers. He's the one who gave the powers. Elokim. Maybe that's why it's plural, Rabotai, because plural refers to the many different facets and different energies that exist in the world, and this is all the power of Hashem, who is giving fuel or making this exist. So, we have to understand, Rabotai, we're trying to find out why we, human beings, are called Tselem Elokim. So, anytime we talk about Elokim, there's going to be a resemblance with us. You understand the kind of exercise we have to do today? As we read, try to make a comparison between the two. As we read, it's going to become more complicated because apparently there's no comparison between the power of Hashem and us, especially after this introduction. Hashem is Elokim, Ba'al HaKochot Kulam, he's above all powers. Really? And we are B'Tselem that. Because it doesn't say we just are similar to God. We say Tselem Elokim, so that we're trying to see a comparison between us, the creation of man, and Elokim. And that's what we pick as the perfect mission statement, maybe, of who we are. The ID card of human beings is going to be Tselem Elokim. What is Elokim? Ba'al HaKochot Kulam. Well, you're Tselem of that. Why are you a Tselem of that? By the way, a name is very limiting, because a name, especially when it's a nickname, really God has no name. The real name of God is Ein Sof. Ein Sof means limitless, infinite, which means no name. There's no name, because a name is limiting, especially when it's a nickname. So a nickname is going to be on an aspect, an angle of your life. You know, when you walk in the streets of Mexico, for example, they call you, hey, Güero. Why do they call you, hey, Güero? Because you're not dark skin, you're lighter skin, so they call you Güero. Güero means blonde. Whatever. The point is, they are calling you on what they see of you. Any name, le'avdil, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's the same idea. Because any name is limiting. We're going to see that in Shar Gimel. The Nefesh HaChaim says it clearly in Shar Gimel. When you call a name, you limit. We're only allowed to call the names that the Torah calls Hashem. Here too, Elokim is limiting. We're talking about one facet, one aspect of God. And that's the aspect we're going to be compared to. Right? Because they call us Tselem Elokim, the image of that. I want you to know what that is, so you understand what you are. Because you're an image of that. So first and foremost, we have to understand what's Elokim. Now the word Elokim is used many times also in a derogative way. And I'll tell you how. For example, you have to know, Ki Hashem hu Elohei ha-Elohim. Ki Gadol Hashem mikol ha-Elohim. Remember these pesukim. God is greater than all Elohim. What? So, what is that? Because there we refer to Avodah Zarah. You say God is above all Elohim. Apparently, that's how people understand. God is above all Elohim. What does it mean? Well, you give some credibility to that? That you say God is above them? Are you comparing apples and oranges here? What are you talking about? So we have to understand how Elohim works to understand these pesukim and to understand our position. So let's focus in the text better than anything I have to say. Look at the text. When we call Hashem Ba'al HaKochot, if you want, the owner of the kochot, of all the energies, the powers. Kilo kemidat basar vadam, midat HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you talk about someone who is strong by us, or an owner or something, it's not going to be the same terminology here. It's the same word, but it's not the same meaning. Why? Ki Adam, it gives just a simple example, mundane example. When a person, for example, someone builds a structure made out of wood. He doesn't make the wood. He just has to use the wood as a base, right? And he takes something that exists and he does his best to make out of what it already exists something better. A virgin wood, to turn it into a beautiful structure, that's a beautiful creative way of doing things. But he didn't create the wood. He took what was existing already and he turned it into something better. So it's not really called inventing. It's not really called making. It's not really called creating. Because creating, that's called transforming. It's really you're taking something that exists and you're giving it a different shape or different form. And many times it's really that shape or form already exists. You're just trimming out what you don't want. Think about a beam, for example. A beam, it's a piece of wood that exists already. You're just chopping out what you don't want. So you didn't create anything. You removed what you did not want, and all is left is what you do want. That's a beam. You didn't create anything. He just takes wood that already exists and puts them, cuts them, whatever. He orders them in a building, and then he has a house. Once he orders, he puts them in order according to what he understands, the way he wants. So he's removing his involvement of that, and now the house stands. This is how you do it. So it's really a partial power, if you want. It's a power that is based on something else. You can't invent raw material. You need something to build something. If you don't have that raw material, there's nothing you could do. That's called a very, very limited power. The real power, however, it's not this. So again, we're comparing here human beings with God. And we're basically saying, hey, we don't have the power that Hashem has, but somehow we are created betzalmo. Aha! How do you do that? So first, what is his power? You already know. אבל הוא יתברך שמו, הקדוש ברוך הוא himself, what is it? כמו בעת בריאת העולמות כולם. The same like at the beginning of time, if you want, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the olamot. The olamot, if you want, in 2 words, let's take a minute on that, is the spiritual source or root of the existence that is down here on this world. Everything has a root. Everything has a malach. Everything is just a representation of something spiritual that you see down here. So there's a constant correlation and connection between what's below and what's above. So when God creates, he creates the root, and the root then goes down to this world. When he created all the olamot, all the upper worlds, what we call the upper worlds according to the Kabbalah, Bera'am vehimtzi'am hu yitbarach, a very key word, yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. When you create something from nothing, you are called somebody who is Baal HaKoach, someone who is the true owner of the power. If I need to use existing wood to make a nice wooden structure, I'm a strong guy, but I'm not Baal HaKochot. I'm not the one who owns that koach. The one who does yesh me'ayin, a very important expression, something from nothing, that's bekocho habilti tachlit. That's what we call a koach, a strength that is, you cannot compare. Uncomparable, incomparable, I don't know how you say. That you cannot compare with any of ours because we don't seem to even comprehend how that works. Ken me'az kol yom v'kol rega mamash. By the way, says the Nefesh HaChaim, don't think that was the end of it. So it's true at the beginning of the world, when God creates the world, and when he says the world, it means more than that. It's very complex. There's a lot more olamot ha'elenim, I'll explain very quickly, but as we read the book, we'll see more about that. There's a lot of complexity above there. The olamot, the different levels, we'll discuss that. Abiyah, Naran, all these concepts, they're above. Very, very complex. Hashem created all these things, and it's a very complex things. He did that at the creation of the world. That is Baal HaKochot Kulam. Says Nefesh HaChaim, in case you believe that, that's it. It's over. Once he created the world, then his job as a Baal HaKochot Kulam is over, because he's not creating anymore something new. That is incorrect. He continues all the time. Look what he says. Ki me'az, from that moment, kol yom v'chol rega mamash, every day and every single instant, as we're going to see in the note. Kol koach metziutam v'sidram mikiyumam. The mere existence of everything. And the seder, the order of things. The kiyumam, and the fact that they are still active in the world. Talui rak b'mashu yitbarach shemo mashpia bahem b'rtzono yitbarach kol rega. It could be that he created the sun, and the sun is already created, but if he decides not to fuel it anymore, then it's gone. So it's not the end, it's not finished. No, he is Ba'al HaKoach, because every single instant, he's fueling that existence all the time, all the time, all the time. Koach v'shif'at or chadash, using Kabbalistic terms, the power and an influence of or chadash, of a new light, as if you would need a new energy to rejuvenate everything in the world. Ve'ilu hayahu yitbarach mesalek mehem koach hashpa'ato af rega echad. If Hashem, for an instant, theoretically, would decide to stop his active role in infusing the needed amount of fuel for these worlds to exist, kerega hayu kulam le'efes v'tohu, then everything would go back to nothing. There would be no life possible. This is very interesting. In Sha'ar Gimel and Sha'ar Aleph, he compares a little bit this concept as one would say it's like the neshama. If the neshama and the guf, they're together, so you have a body and you have a soul. When the soul is gone, you have a body, but it doesn't work. In Sha'ar Gimel, he explains a little bit deeper. He says it's much more than that. At least when the neshama departs from the body, there is a body. There's a non-functioning body, but you have a body. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu would stop his, again, influence or infusion of the energy necessary for the world to exist, what we call Ritzono Yitbarach, his will, the world not only would be like a dead body, but would not be here at all. Everything would disappear. How that works, that's Sha'ar Gimel. Sha'ar Gimel explains all this whole thing of, something that you believe exists or you touch, but really the connection between Ein Sof and Yud Kei Vav. Okay? That's Bezat Hashem for much later. In the meantime, we'll just focus on that. The power of Hashem didn't stop. What have we learned? We have learned that from the Maaseh Bereshit, from the creation of the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates something called Yesh Me'ayin. That kind of creation of Yesh Me'ayin, something from nothing, is what we consider Elokim. Ba'al HaKochot Kulam, he's the one who is the strongest being that has really a full control of everything. And he's infusing that constantly. This is the word Elokim. So his job is not over. It continues and continues and continues. This is the definition of Elokim. Don't forget that our homework is how are we the tselem of that? Right? Because that's how we started, right? So we just need to know what Elokim is. And knowing that tselem is a comparison, how in the world are we a mirror of that? We have to get there at one point. Not yet. We're still searching on the word Elokim. How does it work? What is Elokim? Now, to understand the involvement of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world that is constant and present and not only past, and he was not put on cruise control, כמו שיסדו אנשי כנסת הגדולה בברכת יוצר אור. The אנשי כנסת הגדולה in the Beracha of Yotzer Or, they write the following. In Lakel Baruch, המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. Hashem who is Mechadesh, who constantly renews Betuvo with his great goodness, Bechol Yom, every day, Tamid, always, Maaseh Bereshit, the creation of the world, basically. Hainu Tamid Mamash, Kol Et Verega, when it tells you Bechol Yom means, you should know every day God does that, but really, Bechol Yom Tamid. It's a constant thing happening all the time, every single instant. Bechol Mamash Kol Et Verega, every single instant. How did they know that? Because to write something like this in the Tefillah, it's a strong proposition. How did they know what is the source of the Chachamim? Kamur, and they tell you there in Lakel Baruch. What do they say? Le'oseh orim gedolim ki le'olam chasdo. What did it say in the pasuk? Le'oseh orim gedolim. It doesn't say le'asa orim gedolim. The one who made the luminaries, the great luminaries. Le'oseh orim gedolim. The one who makes the luminaries. We know the sun, by the way, is not something physical. I mean, we know that today. It's a gas with flame. It's fire. There's no weight to it. How do you do that? This is mamash. The more you go further away from the earth, the more it's so difficult to understand. It's just one example. Orim gedolim, great luminaries. Oseh, says the Nefesh Shelo amar asa. He didn't say he made them. Ela oseh, he makes them. And therefore, the involvement of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is constant. Constant. Look in the Nefesh HaChaim, there's a Haggadah. So let me explain to you the Haggahot are notes that were written by his son, Rabbeinu Yitzchak Mivolozhin, I believe. And they are more complicated than the text itself. But they are worthy sometimes of spending time on. Sometimes they're very, very complicated, sometimes not so complicated. So let's try to read through some of them. Here, he says the following. I'll try to explain a little bit. Do you have the notes on the, I don't know if on the is there a note? Yes, you have the note on the Sefaria Haggah. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so let's do the note, Rabotai. The note says, Ve'af she'en chidush nikar la'ayin. Although the naked eye cannot see that, you don't see any of that. You see the world is continuing like yesterday, and you're expecting, everything. Omnam hadalet yesodin ila'in. The four yesodot that we talk about are known as Esh, Maim, Ruach, Afar. In English, that would be fire, water, wind, and Afar is dust. The Inun Ashorashim Kadma'in, the Avhan Dechola, called the source of everything. Kanizkar Bazohar, as the Zohar Vayera brings, Shem Shoresh Kol Maaseh Bereshit Upnimiyut Kulam. They are the source of everything. We'll get back to that also in Shar Gimel. Ve'em Dalet Otiyot Havaya. The number 4, whenever you have it, it raises an eyebrow. It's the 4 Otiyot Havaya Baruch Hu. Itmazgutam ve'arkavatam kol et ve'rega b'shoresh shorsham. You have to understand, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, which means that Yud Kevavke is Atzmuto Yitbarach, trying to bring or connect always the powers or the Elokim or the plurality of the powers of the world with Yud Kevavke. As long as you connect that, you're safe. And this is a good introduction for what's coming. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. What does it mean, Hashem Elokeinu? Whenever you see all the kochot of the world, they are Yud Kevavke. They're always connected to Yud Kevavke. So obviously this number 4, you're going to find it in many different facets and aspects of everything, because everything starts from there. So that's the Shoresh. Itmazgutam varkavatam. The Tzerufe Shemot, and you're going to see in the next little note even more, Kol et v'rega b'shoresh shorsham. There's almost like always an involvement of the Yud Kevavke in the Biriya constantly. Enu musag klal, this cannot be seen. By the way, it's also logical, because if it's like saying if all the action happens behind closed doors, it makes no difference to you. It's like if you go to a mall, right? You go to the mall is open, like yesterday, like today, like tomorrow, the day after. You don't see any changes, really. Well, in the executive office, there's a lot of changes happening. They're firing this person, they're putting this person, they're having a lot of things are happening. You don't see them. So too here, we down here, we're in the mall. We go shopping, we see the world. Okay, everything is the same. Every day you have the sun. Yeah, but what's happening above in the Olamot HaElyonim, in a much higher way, there's a constant, I wouldn't say war, there's a constant movement happening. And this happens by the tzirufei shemot of Yud Kei Vav Kei intermingling with different possibilities. I don't know if you ever see in some sidurim of Kabbalah, you see how all the names of Hashem are intermingled. Sometimes between the letters, sometimes between the vowels, sometimes between things. It's very complicated. I myself don't understand any of that. But you're going to see that there's a certain amount of possible combinations that exist. Do you know that number? The amount of combinations of the tzirufei shemot of Yud Kei Vav Kei. You don't know that number? Okay, so I'm going to tell you that number. 1,080. 1,080. Now if I ask you what 1,080 reminds you of, if you learned Rambam, if you learned Masechet Rosh Hashanah, you would know. Well, it's not the second, it's per hour, the way the Chalakim, you know, when sometime by the Molad, somebody announces the Molad, and X amount of Chalakim. The maximum amount of Chalakim you could have in 1 hour is 1,080. It's like if you divide the hour in 1,080. Do you know why 1,080 Chalakim in 1 hour? In the way it's explained by the Mekubalim, is that a breath, how long does it take for a breath? How many breaths we do per minute? We don't do 60, it's not 1 per second. You do much less, maybe 2-3 seconds for a full breath. I'm not talking about pulse. Pulse is approximately 1 per second, but breath is approximately 1 per 3 seconds. Approximately, when you're at rest. Obviously, when you're running or jogging, or there's something else. When you're at rest, approximately 1 every 3 seconds. Which means that in 1 hour, there's 1,080 breaths. Now, of course, you're going to tell me, well, it depends on each person. I get you. I understand that. And I don't know more than that. I'm just sharing the text with you. But the way it works is that the Chachamim saw, the Chachamim of the Kabbalah, that there are taf resh pe chalakim, so 1,080 chalakim in every sha'ah, because b'sha'ah you have taf resh pe neshimot shemen Hashem ha'adam. Why? Because there are taf resh pe, so 1,080 shemot of Yud Kei Vav Kei possible, and every hour, all the different combinations of Yud Kei Vav Kei are going to be explored and applied to the world. That's what I call behind closed doors, some stuff is happening. Now that's what you call mechadesh tamid. As if you would say every 3 seconds there's the whole chidush of the whole thing. How? With a different tziruf of Shemot HaKodesh. I don't know more than that. That's the limit for me. It's not all written in a note, but I'm telling you a little bit more to understand, because the note, it says so it's first of all, it's understood why we can't see it, because maybe in the outside you don't have access to these things, but that's really what's happening in the official executive board office. That's where decisions are being made. So it says, "Inyan itmazgutam kol rega hem tav resh pe tzerufei Hashem Baruch Hu." They come from the different combinations, 1,080. Al pi shtanut nekudotehem tav resh pe nigei hasha'ah. Which means that all the combinations that happen, they happen every hour. And every hour, the cycle starts again from the beginning. With different combinations. Afterwards, you have night, day, the 3 different areas of the night. When you learn Masechet Berachot, you know these things. Every moment. וגם אין מידת יום שווה למידת לילה. לא כל יום דומה לחברו שלפניו. Even every day you think it's the same thing happening to every 24 hours. It depends. It's Rosh Chodesh, it's not Rosh Chodesh. It's on the first 15 days going up, the last 15 days going down. What part of the year? Is it Purim? Is it Pesach? There's so much, so many combinations, and maybe even every year is different than the other. So really, every day is mamash nubriya. You may not see it, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a big scandal happening. When Tesla shares goes this or that, and there's a big, thing happening in the Tesla headquarters, you still see your neighbor's Tesla driving. It makes no difference. It's the same car going, well, I saw the difference. I still see my Tesla works, his Tesla works. You're right, but it doesn't mean that Tesla is not having a crisis it's two different things. It's the same thing here. You don't see it. That's mechadesh, maaseh bereshit, tamid. All the time it's happening. Back to the text. Vezeu shenikra itbarach shemo ha-Elohim. When we say Elohe ha-Elohim, what's ha-Elohim? Ba'al kochot kulam. He's the full owner of all those kochot. Shekol koach prati hanimtza bekol ha'olamot. Anything, any koach that exists in all the different olamot that you could imagine. Hakol hu yitbarach shemo haba'al koach shelahem. He's right above that. He's the creator of that. He's the inventor of that, and he's the fueler of that. When you buy your Mac, right? You buy your Apple computer. I'm saying Apple because mine is an Apple. You buy this Apple computer, the job is done. There isn't someone inside there that, do this, do that. That's it. The system is made. Hashem is not like this. He made a computer, and he's the one running it every second. As if there's somebody there, doing the job for you. Shemashpia bahem hakoach hugvura kol rega. Every instant is doing that. Theoretically, technically speaking, he could change anything he wants because it's anyways happening. By the way, I just want to plant a seed of thought. The more science advances, and the more you could almost materialize what we're saying here. We know that the molecules are in constant motion all the time. If you'd be able to have an electronic microscope, you will see that your table is not stable at all. It's always in motion, which means that the combinations between the molecules is constantly changing. And depending what it is, it could be more flexible or less flexible. But there's a constant life happening, even if in what seems to be what we call domem, something that doesn't move. In kaze davar, there's no domem. It exists, but because what it looks like, domem. Is it really a domem? No. There's a constant changing happening all the time. Anything on this earth, there's somebody saying, I need you here now. And that's why there's a motion. There's almost like somebody telling that molecule, you go right, you go left. Why is it going this way or that way? Then you go into a different quantum physics, that's something else. But you should know, the more you go into these sugyot of Kabbalistic teachings, and the more you realize that science is catching up to what we already know 2,000 years ago. When you talk about quantum physics, sometimes you look at Shar Gimel, you're going to see Shar Gimel, like, okay, it's all written here. It's all written here. It's unbelievable. I'm not joking. This is like big discoveries for the world, and it's shocking, these discoveries. But you see how everything is being manipulated, even from the humans who could see something and everything stops. We'll get there. But this is Ba'al HaKochot Kulam, the power of all. Let's do the note. Let's try to do the note till the end. So next week we start Perek Gimel. Haga. After the whole introduction, now the note should be very easy. ואף שהוא שם משותף לכל בעל הכוח שנמצא בעולם וכל שרי מעלה ומטה נקראים אלוקים. So Elokim is a very, very general term, as we know. Elokim could be for many, many things. כל שרי מעלה ומטה נקראים אלוקים. Even malachim, right? We call angels, we call them Elokim. There's some parashiot in Sefer Bereshit that you call them Elokim. כמו שכתוב, אלוהי העמים, for example. Right? So אלוהי העמים, what is it? Is it עבודה זרה? No, it means the malachim of the העמים. כי כל העמים ילכו איש בשם אלוהיו. Oh, one would think Shem Elohav, they're going each one with his God. No, Chas v'shalom. Shem Elohav is their Sar, their prince, their Malach. ועיין זוהר, בעניין ויבוא אלוהים, דכתיב באבימלך ולבן ובלעם, פירוש השר שלו. It's not God. Whenever it says Elokim, you have to analyze. What is it that he's talking about? Is it God? Or is it a certain power, a certain representation, or certain malach, certain aspects of spiritual life? Because they're above them, the source, if you want, of the anhaga, of how it's going to happen, how they're going to be having life. So too, the judges down here in Bedin, they're considered Elokim. One of those are their name. So it may be a facet of Elokim. Whenever you have a certain power, you could be called Elokim in a sense. That's why the Dayanim are called Elokim also, because they have certain power, certain shlita. Omnam, kulam, all of these. The mistake between Avodat Hashem and Avodah Zarah is one hair, Rabotai, one hair. Is do you continue the chain up or do you stop somewhere? If you believe in any of these powers, that they have an independence, so then that's Avodah Zarah. Because they are independent. If you believe that Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, it's always connected to Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's Avodat Hashem. One hair of difference. You call all of these Elokim. But Hashem, Hu Elokim, or Elokim by itself. That's why it's plural, because it's all kochot. But when you connect it to Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yachidum Yuchad, then you're safe. Avodah Zarah is the disconnection between the two. That will be discussed in Sha'ar Gimel, Perek Zayin, I believe. אומנם כולם מן הכוח שלהם מעצמם, רק ממה שקבע בהם יתברך שמו גבולה להיות מושלים. So Hashem put that power in them. לכן נקראו יתברך שמו, why do you call God now? אלוהי האלוהים. Oh, it makes sense. It's like if he's the power above Elokim. But Elokim by itself, it could be the sun, it could be the moon, it could be anything. It could be a man, it could be anything that has certain energy, certain power. It's Elokim. But Elokei Elokim is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's the one above, meaning he invented it, he fuels it, he makes it happen. Yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. Constantly, not only the first time, even now it's from nothing. וכן כתיב, כי גדול השם מכל האלוהים. Oh, that makes sense. You think God is higher than all other gods. When you read this pasuk, you say, what is going on? No, Hashem is, Yud Kei Vav Kei is above Elokim. Meaning, when you see the sun, for example, it's the easiest example. Some people served the sun. It was Avodah Zarah. Their mistake was Elohim. They look at the sun, it has power. Does the sun have power? Absolutely. Is it the strong energy? Yes. Is it independent? No. Mistake. Ki gadol Hashem mikol haElohim. When Yud Kei Vav Kei is above Elokim, then you win. Ishtachavu lo kol Elohim. It doesn't mean all divinities are going to bow to Hashem. Chas v'shalom. You read a pasuk like this, you said, oh, it means that all the Avodah Zarah are going to do teshuvah. Chas v'shalom. There's no such thing. Elohim, all those quote-unquote Avodah Zarah means these powers that were thought to be independent, they're not independent. And now they're going to be ishtachavu lo kol Elohim. Become ha'ovdei kochavim kolim oto yitbarach elahad elahin. לכן נקראים אלוהים אחרים. That's why you call them אלוהים אחרים. Other gods. רוצה לומר שאין הכוח שלהם מעצמם. אלוהים אחרים means it's not independent אלוהים, it's אלוהים that get their power from אחרים, which is הקדוש ברוך הוא. רק מכוח גבוה ממנו, הגבוה ממנו מושך גם כן כוח מהכוח שעליו, עד הבעל כוח אמיתי של כולם שהוא יתברך שמו. He goes, it's a ladder, there's a lot of steps until you get all the way to Yud Kei Vav Kei. You have 10 steps in each one of the 4 walls. That's 40 different steps. The Sephirah, the Bara, all the way to HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvodo v'atzmo. ולכן נאמר, ואדוני אלוהים אמת. When you say the combination all the way from Yud Kei Vav Kei above to all the way in the bottom, אלוקים, אמת. That's אמת. שהוא הבעל כוח אמיתי של כולם, שכולם מקבלים כוחם ממנו יתברך שמו. They all get their power from Yud Kei Vav Kei. זהו שאמר, ויפלו על פניהם ויאמרו, השם הוא האלוקים. When you realize that, then you realize that the koach is something that comes all the way from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So then, Hashem Elokim Emet. Hashem Hu HaElokim. Whenever you have both combinations of Yud Kei Vav Kei and Elokim, you understand that what it means to say is that it's not independent. That power is connected to Yud Kei Vav Kei. I'm going to unmute anybody who wants to speak. Could now ask a question. If you want, if not...
Hello, ¿cómo está?
Good.
Question. So I've heard from I don't know if it's a Ramban or my Rambam, that one opinion is God causes the sun to rise every day. The other opinion is that God put in the establishment of nature that the sun rises every day. He established its power to rise every day.
Okay.
So which are they both correct, or we just don't know?
They are both correct, meaning the following. It's going in our eyes to appear as if there's the laws of nature, right? There is. Hashem doesn't want to change that. But behind closed doors, like the example of going to a park, going to a mall, going to a place that everything looks the same, it's the same thing. Behind closed doors, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is constantly doing something to make it happen. Meaning you still need to fuel it. It's like if you have a car, right? The car works, it works. If you don't fill up with gas, it's not going to work. Even if it drives the same way the whole life, if you don't fill up with gas, your car is not going to work. And therefore, do you see both perspectives at the same time? Is it a steady thing happening? Yes. You still need fuel to be burnt constantly? Yes, too. So both are right. Both are right. And we talk constantly in the Gemara that Hashem doesn't want to change the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu put nature in the world. He doesn't want to change that. It doesn't mean that he's not working constantly for this to go. It's like a factory that they're making flour all day long. You see the same bag of flour every single day in Publix or wherever you shop, and you're going to see that bag of flour. Well, but there's a lot of work behind the door. Maybe they changed the employee. You understand? So you see one aspect, and that's why he says it's en nir'eh la'ayin. You cannot see that, but not because you cannot see that. It means that there's no work happening behind, and that's the work happening every single neshima, 1,080 times an hour. That's incredible. That is Elokim. How are we tselem of that?
I heard a good one. Shamayim ve'aretz. I'll give it to you.
So, Rabbi.
That's my sister. Hi, sister.
Hi, how are you? Are you trying to say that the way we perceive Hashem in this world is Elokim? Because really, all what we see from Hashem is the fact that He's power of all power. We don't see the concept of Yud Ke Vav Ke.
You don't see the power of Yud Ke Vav Ke, and you don't see either the power of Elokim as a God. All you see is going to be the sun and the rain and other things. So even the power of Elokim, you need a mental work for that. And the mental work that you push even further is going to be to connect anything that seems to be independent with the real independent being, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yud Ke Vav Ke. So regardless what you see, yeah, of course you don't see it. I would say you don't even...
How do you connect that with the idea that Elokim is Midat Adin, Yud Ke Vav Ke is Midat Rachamim? Because for me, if you say that Elokim is the concept of infusing with life at every moment, for me this is Chesed, it's not Midat Adin.
So excellent. I think that when we teach Yud Ke Vav Ke being Rachamim and Elokim being Midat Adin, I don't like it. I think it's wrong. It doesn't mean Elokim and Din. Let me explain something, for example. I'll give you an example. There's a question in Zimun. Why do we say, in all the berachot, we say Baruch Atah Hashem, right? It's more like Yud Ke Vav Ke prevalent, then you say Elokeinu melech haolam. But some berachot, you say Baruch Atah Hashem, Shomei Tefillah, for example. When it comes to Zimun, the only time we say Baruch, and you have 10 people, is Baruch Elokeinu she'achanu mishelo, for example. Why is it Elokeinu? So the Chida explains that because justice is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and He brings any animal, any human being into the world, it's like a responsibility He has to feed that person. So by Midat Adin, you could almost demand from Hashem and saying, you put me in this world, you need to give me food. When you thank Hashem for that, you say, Baruch Elokeinu. So Elokim doesn't mean harsh or soft. You imagine somebody nice or somebody not nice. Chas v'shalom. Elokim is standard, is what has been predicted, if you want, from the beginning. It's what Alan was saying before. It's something that from the beginning, Hashem decided this is how it's going to work. It doesn't mean harsh or not harsh. It means more like not flexible. It's what it is. I need to give you food, I will give you food. That's Elokim. It could be in a nice way. It doesn't have to be in a mean way. Chas v'shalom. Yud Ke Vav Ke is the real boss. The real boss could change things. So this flexibility of Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's what you call chesed. And chesed, by the way, doesn't mean always that. That's another topic maybe. But Yud Kei Vav Kei and Elokim is more that. You know, the flexible and the not flexible. Once Hashem created the powers in the world, they're not flexible. The sun is going to rise every day. Yud Kei Vav Kei has to bring that to work. But Elokim is what you see. So that mental work is going to be the difference between Avodah Zarah and Avodat Hashem, which is, again, it's a very small difference, and that's the whole difference. When people forgot to connect Yud Kei Vav Kei with Elokim, it became Avodah Zarah because they gave prevalence and independence to that power that exists. That disconnection is really Avodah Zarah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right.
Ra?
Yes.
So it's very simple, but I think this is the source of the emunah, because we all fall in the idea. I don't know, in many examples, every day we fall in the idea that we believe in what we see, and we don't connect the real. That is only one thing. Everything is one.
Absolutely.
It's nothing.
Absolutely.
Not separation of anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. 100%.
So only exists one.
Yes.
One thing.
Yes.
So this is
Bayomahu, how do we say? When there's a revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bayomahu, Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. Which means what we see in the world is not Echad. We see a lot of facets. We see a lot of things happening around us. Bayomahu, Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. Hashem wa Elokim, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokenu, Hashem Echad. This is it. That's what you're supposed to think when you say Shema Yisrael. Hashem Echad means that everything goes back to this. This is the essence of everything. This is everything. So yes, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, my great pleasure. We'll see you on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Bezrat Hashem.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.